there was, and then there's other trust building activities and experiences that we can do to create a speed of trust, as Covey says. And then I wanted to share a quick little experience I had recently because it was so good. I was introduced to someone where the person that introduced us, we both love. So we immediately hit it off. This person has a lot of experience in media. I tried to pitch something. I sent something to them, and he wrote back to me, and he said, "Shed, let's pretend we've been best friends for 15 years," was the opening line of his email. And he said, with that pretense, here's the feedback that I would give you. And I was
I
like,
love that.
oh my God, what a gift. Like, he could have ghosted me. He could have said, it's okay. But he's like, let's pretend we're besties and we've known each other for forever. I'm going to give you feedback based on that level of relationship, which I was like, thank you. It was a breath of fresh air. It was brilliant. And it like quickly got us into depth, because I knew it was coming from a place of love, care, and service. It wasn't to knock me down. It was to build me up.
And what's cool about that is I've even had companies that taught me, and I've taught others, start an email out with, in the spirit of continuous improvement, or one of the company values, in the spirit of a call to greatness. And when we used to do ropes courses, everybody would have a caliper as kind of one of their takeaways. And people would come in to have a hard conversation, and they would put the caliper on the desk. And that just said everything, like, I am here in peace, and I'm nervous to have this conversation. You know, I appreciate that. I also think we're animals. And if you've done your inner work, if you, for me, that's meditated and done some intentionality and walk into a room, animals read energy. The cat knows which lap to crawl up on, and it's not mine when I like walk into a room. And I think too, like managing our own, like, and also they just need to see us handle something once, where we are open and honest. And we're like, oh my gosh, you've given me a lot to think about. Can we take this outside this meeting? I really need to understand more about that. When they see that kind of unflappable openness, that spreads far and wide.
Yeah, totally. Which is also, there's a ripple of encourage and reward. Because if, let's say, Alex, I report into you, I go into your office and have, or Zoom room or whatever it is, and have a hard conversation, and it goes well, guess what? That spreads. That spreads really quickly. Yeah. And similarly, if it doesn't go well. And a speak up culture doesn't mean, you know, that anyone can just knock on your door, pick up the phone, or say, I have feedback, you're going to listen now. It's, I have something hard that I want to discuss. Is now a good time?
Yeah.
You know, I think oftentimes we behave as if we're automatic transmissions, but really we're manual. It's not just park, drive, and reverse. It's when you're driving, there's 5 gears. So we can flex our approach and check in and ensure that now's a good time for the conversation. And I love, Sai, you know, this what you mentioned with talismans, you know, language matters, shared language matters, symbols matter. So my favorite formula for feedback is FBI, right? Feeling, behavior, impact.
Okay. Give us an example.
So, and it works both for positive feedback as well as constructive. Because I like to say one-liners are fine for jokes, not really so good for feedback. So I could say, you know, great job. Hey, you two, great job today. And you're like, okay, don't know what we did to deserve that or how we could ever repeat it or if he's being sincere. Or I could go, FBI, I feel so bought in and engaged by the research you put into this conversation, by your presence and excitement and us building upon each other. And the impact is whatever you want to do, most likely I'm 2 thumbs up. Let's keep going, right? That's way better than great job today, you know? Yeah. Similarly, and I'm making this up, I could say you're lazy, triggered, done. Or I could say I feel really let down and, if I'm honest, frustrated when you showed up late to 3 client meetings last week. And the impact is, I'm not sure we can trust you with what's on your plate right now. Like, what's going on? How are you? You know? And I think for capital L leaders, you must realize that your feedback is not fact, though it should be based upon factual events, it's
Mhm.
opinion. And the purpose of feedback is to start dialogue. The purpose of feedback is to create growth. And so that's why I love at the end of that constructive FBI is open-ended question. Because I do not think that the vast majority of us wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to let down my boss and colleagues today, right? Very few people say that and mean it. So I think when we show up, I'll take from Dr. Becky Kennedy this most generous interpretation is how can we say, what's going on for you? What do you need? This isn't like you, It begins dialogue to be, oh, I have too much on my plate. I'm doing too much execution work and I'm a strategic thinker, or vice versa. I'm caring for a sick pet or parent or family member, whatever it might be.
And I love that. And I am so bought into FBI, our feedback frame. It's like we just come from the same schools. It's like in my first book, it was all about like, here's what I appreciate about you, so that I remind that you're bigger than the one event I'm talking to you about. Like,
yes.
I come in peace. And then here's what's not working yet. Or, it's like there's hope. And then the third one's like, help me understand. Like, what's up? And I would add one to your FBI. Here's what's possible, because I really want to say, like, all this is figure outable if you're willing and you can share with me, because here's what's possible. We maybe can get you out of some execution to free up time for strategy, or, here's what's possible. And I think after tough discussions, what we forget about is we leave people in the moment maybe feeling closure, but afterwards they get very vulnerable again.
Yeah.
And it's hard to remember.
It's that hangover.
And so I really think about proximity. Like if we've had an intimate discussion, I have to be so intentional to turn back towards you 3 times.